everybody. Welcome to your Design, Delivery, and Evaluation class. Here on campus, we are in Design and Delivery. As you know, this week we're talking about marketing and recruitment. There are 5 students in the classroom. Just so you know, say hi, everybody.
Hi.
So there you know we're not lying. There are students in the classroom. But mostly we're here to learn from S.I.T. World Learning's own Director of Marketing, Shawna Harper. Shawna, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good morning. I'm Shawna Harper. I'm the Director of Marketing for World Learning. I'm responsible for the Experiment, International Living, S.I.T. Study Abroad, and S.I.T. Graduate Institute Marketing and Recruiting, brand awareness tools efforts. I work very, very closely with our admissions teams and our recruiting teams. I have a brief slideshow this morning, and then I have also a brief simulation for us to do for a custom program that S.I.T. Study Abroad is actually working on right now. I wanted to start by just going around the room. I don't know everyone here. Maybe you could just tell me your name and a little bit about the program that you're, what you're doing in the program and what you're planning on doing next.
Hi, I'm Tim Booker. Not entirely sure what I plan on doing next, but I would like to work with U.S. citizens, maybe in the U.S.
Yes, I'm Jenny Amkuda. We met when Ayla and when we did our marketing for international students. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
Yes. So, I'm waiting for the Department of State for my practical and, hopefully I can learn some more things from you.
And Priya, still figuring it out. And yeah, that's about it for now.
I'm Monica, and I'm hoping to work with incoming international students. It was in the U.S., and I was overseas too. None of us has mentioned anything about our program yet, so should I
Go for it.
Okay. We have a short-term faculty-led island program that we're hoping to do in Fiji that works with service learning and elements to do with the environment, the indigenous population, and stuff like that. And we're based out of Santa Clara University in California. And we're thinking about it being a winter program, but I don't think that'll work with the quarters at the school, so it might end up being a summer program just for time-wise.
And it was a short-term program?
Short-term, yeah.
Do you know how long it's going to be yet?
We're thinking maybe around a month, but maybe a bit longer. It might, yeah, it might change. So, and we don't have an official name for it yet.
Hi, I'm Aya. My company is suddenly running on their paper. I'm hoping to work with Turkish students and then eventually back in the USA or incoming students as well.
So I'm going to talk just a little bit very generally about marketing in terms of how we do it in the field of international education. Talk a little bit about the marketing channels that we use, and then move into the simulation. So,
It's push that one. Then you can see what's going on, and if not, I'll sit here and here. How's that?
okay, great. So there's lots of different ways that you can reach out to your audiences. These are a number of the major marketing channels that we use. And when I use the term channel, I mean some method that you provide content, information, access to your program to your potential audiences. So we use all of these and more. Many of them we use in conjunction with one another. Our face-to-face recruiting efforts, of course, use the printed material tools that we produce. Our website, which is really the central repository of all of the information, all of the content about our programs. Most of the other channels that we use flow back and forth from a website. Just because these channels exist doesn't mean that you have to use them or that they're necessarily appropriate for your audience. And that's a really important piece of assessment that needs to be done when you're delivering a program, when you're deciding how you're going to market and how you're going to recruit for it. If your audience doesn't use Facebook, Facebook isn't going to be useful for you. But if you're working with college students, 90+% of whom use Facebook, Facebook is probably a good place to be. Something else about different marketing channels that you should keep in mind is relative cost versus relative effort. Print materials can be very, very expensive, though with digital printing, things are less expensive than they used to be. But they take a lot of paper, they take a lot of time, and compared to, say, a Facebook page, which is technically free, they do take a lot more money. But generally, there is a sort of an inverse between the amount of effort that something takes and the amount of cost. If you have a designer that you can afford who can do a printed material for you, that might be a very effective but expensive recruiting tool. Facebook, which you would have to do on your own, or a website, which you have to do on your own, may cost a lot less, but would take a lot more effort on your part. So it's important when you're choosing these channels to think about cost and effort and also how you're reaching your audience. Because if your audience isn't able to access the information that you're providing, then it isn't a good channel. And it's really important to use them in conjunction with one another. Just because social media is so important now in marketing, particularly if you're marketing to a college audience, it doesn't mean that a brochure isn't important too, because a lot of the ways that college students learn about study abroad is through face-to-face recruiting on their campuses. And you can't do effective face-to-face recruiting without a printed material. So that's why, for instance, in the Experiment in International Living, our high school program, in S.I.T. Study Abroad, our college program, we use printed catalogs and other brochures as a way to raise awareness and talk about the programs face-to-face as we recruit students. Any questions about marketing outreach channels, social media, websites?
Could you use the social media instead of your own effort in terms of doing it yourself? Can you use a third party like an agency? And how much do you use an agency as opposed to doing it yourself?
You certainly can. There are marketing services agencies out there that do everything. There are niche agencies that really focus on social media, building a Facebook profile, Facebook pages for you, maybe connecting those to short YouTube videos. Those are often done in conjunction with other channels. And there are companies, in fact, there's a company in Brattleboro that specializes in that does Facebook for Marlborough College, for instance. So yes, certainly. Any one of these channels, I think, can be outsourced to a marketing services company or even a traditional agency.
How cost effective is that? Is that something you use, or do you recommend that?
I think it depends on budgets and resources. We don't do that. We do all of our social media is done in-house, but we have the staff to do that. You know, if you're a one-person shop, but you can't, you know, especially if, say, you're working at a public university and they don't fund another staff person, but they do say that there's $20,000, just a figure out of the air, for marketing materials. You may choose to take, you know, 5,000 of that and use it for social media marketing and outsource it to a company. So it's often a way of using resources in a different way. And I think it really has to be looked at as part of your marketing mix. Often, though, in a college environment, you can find interns, practicum students, interns, who can do this type of thing very quickly and very easily for you. And that's a place, if you're working in a student advising office or that type of work, that can be very effective. On the other hand, if you're in-country doing incoming outside of the U.S., and you don't have necessarily access to even, you know, a strong internet connection more than a few hours a day, working with an agency can be a really good solution.
How does the email communication work? How do you get emails? I mean, is that kind of like spamming students in a way?
Well,
I don't want to use that word, but.
Yeah, but it's a good thing to bring up because email is very particular in that it is a very powerful way of reaching out to your audience. But it's really important not to be spam. There are actually federal regulations about spam. There is the CAN-SPAM Act that basically says you can't email someone unless they have raised their hand and said, yes, you can email me. You can really only use opted-in lists. You can't legally purchase an email list and mail to it. You can use third-party. We've used NAFSA and TESOL lists where we've provided content and they send emails out to their opt-in list. So that's one way around it. But basically, email, I think, is a best practice, is used for providing very specific information to those who have already raised their hand and said, yes, I'm interested in your program. And you want to be very careful about how and when you send those emails, so that instead of spam, you're sending something to someone who really wants it. And using an example outside of international education, you may have signed up with Gap.com or something, and when you bought something from them, you didn't opt out of receiving emails, so now you get emails from them every third day. You don't want emails from Gap, you see it as spam. But if you want emails from Gap because you want the 35% off today before midnight, then it's not spam, it's an email that you wanted. In the education world in general, and in international education and development, nonprofit world, most email isn't really seen as spam. Most people are interested, they've opted in, and we have very high deliverability rates because of that. Generally speaking, a student walks up to a table at a fair, opts in by saying, yes, I really do want information about a specific program or your programs in general, writes her name down. She wants to get something. She wants to feel that you recognize that she was interested in information and you're now providing that to her. So it can be a way of communicating and making sure that your clients, your customers, your students feel engaged with and not ignored. It can also be abused very, very easily. Unlike print materials, which cost a lot to print and mail, it's really easy and very inexpensive to send email. So you do have to be very careful about how you use it. There are some really great, very affordable email options out there for using third-party whitelisted so that you get good deliverability email. You can't just type 100 names into Outlook or Gmail and expect it to go through. You really do want to use an email provider that does that. The biggest one that I've worked with for years that works very well with small businesses and nonprofits and is extremely affordable is Constant Contact. And I would recommend, if they have free trials, it's a great tool to learn sort of the basics of email marketing through.
So how much would be the cost per contact? 10 cents, a buck, 50 cents?
With Constant Contact, you pay depending on the number of contacts that you have stored in the data, in the contact list in their system. So they have tiers. So if you have a small list of people that you're working with, it's very affordable. I don't know offhand exactly, but I think for as little as $20 a month. Any other questions about marketing channels? Thank you. So I wanted to talk just very, very briefly about some current initiatives, sort of how we're using some of these channels right now. Social media. As I said, there's lots and lots of channels out there. If you want to be just like anything else in marketing, you want to understand what is your desired outcome, how are you using it to reach your audience, what content are you providing? What are you saying in that social media page and that Twitter feed? And we've decided that we're really focused on audience-specific channels. For instance, Twitter, which we do use, we found that in the experiment, it's parents who are paying attention to Twitter. In study abroad, it's other study abroad offices and advisors on campus, so we're using it more as a colleague, peer-to-peer sharing of information. College students don't use Twitter very much at all. So if you're working with an undergraduate audience, it's probably not a great way to reach them, unless your audience is really specific, like maybe, the communications majors. If you're doing a communications program, probably they, statistically use Twitter more than an anthropology majors or business majors might. So that might work in a niche market. And that's something to pay attention to, too. I mean, you may have, if you have any time at all to do a little bit of market research, or even to see where your peers and competitors, where like programs are reaching out, you can learn a lot about your specific audience, because you do want to be careful that, not every college student is the same. And if you're providing a very specific type of program, you might need to shift how you're reaching them compared to a larger, like S.I.T study abroad, very broad, 80 program, study abroad program. So we're using Facebook. We use Facebook for all of our programs. We use it in different ways. One of the ways we use it in study abroad is specifically for individual programs, so that our academic directors who run those programs and the academic staff and office staff there can share information each semester, not only with prospective students, but also with current students and with alumni. Alumni is a very powerful market if you have them. They are your word of mouth efforts in saying, oh, I did this amazing program, and they can really talk in a way about a program that a piece of marketing material can't. And for face-to-face marketing, I think that alumni are very important. And social media, if you can engage your alumni in social media, that can also be really powerful. We also have student groups, and we use that as a retention tool, so that they get to know one another before they depart on the program. And they also share information that helps to prevent repetitive questions to our admissions staff. Are you bringing a cell phone with you? Are you getting one in country? Are you bringing your laptop? A lot of questions like that can be answered on Facebook together as a group before they leave.
Are the student groups, they're on Facebook now? That's how they're...
Yeah, so they're using Facebook, and they're actually student created. So admissions counselors will reach out to students and say, hi, do you want to create a Facebook page for your particular program? A student will raise their hand and say, yeah, I'll do it, and then they administer the page themselves. And we just link to it on our website and on our Facebook main page. Pinterest. There's lots of new social media channels coming up all the time, and Pinterest is a fairly new one. We're just starting to use it. I think Pinterest is really interesting in international education because photos say so much about our programs, and Pinterest is a really fantastic way to share photos, and share photos in context, because it's a combination of photos and text. It's not just a photo gallery like you might have on your website. And because it's such an open public system, people can pin and repin. I think it's going to be an interesting way for us to share information particularly about destinations, about the programs themselves. And if you look at the Study Abroad Pinterest site, that's what we've done. We focused a little bit on pre-departure preparation, but then mostly on photos of the programs themselves. And we found that some of our current students are using Pinterest to post photos of themselves on the program and are repinning them to our pages as well.
Shawna comes twice a year to meet with the spring and fall classes, and every time you come, there's something new. And so Pinterest was not mentioned back in April, and it's always exciting to see what the new thing is. So that's the new thing for the fall.
Yeah, for social media, Pinterest is really the new thing. It is important to keep evolving. Social media changes, the landscape changes, website capabilities change. These aren't static things, and it is important for us to always be thinking about what that next new thing is. And then also looking at new things and going, no, that's really not something we want to be doing. And we do that a lot as well. If you're working in an organization that has a fairly large website and a fairly large web team, You can also consider adding social sharing monitoring to your website, which we've done recently, with Add This, so that we know how often our social media and our websites are being shared. Search engine management.
How does YouTube play into Pinterest?
We repost, we have a bunch of videos on YouTube.
Okay.
We have, for the Graduate Institute, we have videos about every degree. We have videos of campus tour. In study abroad, we have program-specific videos. We also have FAQ videos that provide answers to frequently asked questions about the program, around things like health and safety, nutrition, visas, financial aid. And we post this on our website, connected through YouTube. And YouTube is a really great resource. It's the second largest search engine. Millions, hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. And, you know, very short, personal, not glossy, you know, high-resolution videos can be really, really terrific. If you have a student on the program who has some video skills, we've done some great stuff with just a flip camera and some editing. And because they don't need to be really polished, and they really are better if they're short, it's often something that you can identify a student to help you do. We've done that quite a bit on our study abroad and our experiment programs.
That's a lot what Marcus said, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially Marcus's job now.
So we don't have a replacement for Marcus. Marcus was a special, Marcus Van, who did all of the videos for the Graduate Institute. Last year, that was a special project where we said we really need these videos. We have someone who wants to do it, and the president funded it. So it was really a one-time thing. We do still have a video editor as part of the communications team, but we have one for the entire institution. So it's definitely, we have to pick and choose and use those resources really, really carefully. But because we were able to work with Marcus on so many videos, I think we're good for a little while. I'm not really going to talk too much about search engine management. I do think it's important if you're responsible in a marketing department or admissions department for a website, it's really important to understand the principles of search engine marketing and search engine optimization. To understand how Google AdWords works, to understand how Google Analytics works, and to know who's looking at your website and how they're using it.
So did you have someone to contact to make sure that when you did the search engine, the S.I.T came up like first on the list? Or?
Yeah, we have a whole search engine management plan that we've been implementing. Because of the number of pages we have, because of the level of competition that we have in certain areas, and because, particularly for the Graduate Institute, how niche we are, how small we are, it's challenging. Heidi actually helped quite a bit because she had experience coming in as a marketer, coming into the International Education Program. She did a lot of search engine optimization research for us. We've come a long way. Right now we're working with a consultant outside to review the search engine optimization of our website. And we're working with a paid search company to provide Google AdWords in areas where our search isn't strong. If you search S.I.T, we come up. But a lot of people use words to try to find our degrees that are a little bit different from the words that we use. And that's really challenging. And that's one of the ways that we use Google AdWords.
Well, I think IE comes up very easily for
First
S.I.T.
one. If you do the Bachelor's in International Training, S.I.T is the first school up.
Yeah.
It's the only school that comes up.
Could be. We do have some competition. It's true, but you have to know to search for international education.
Right.
And a lot of people say, like, you know, they'll go to their, you know, maybe their study abroad advisor, or, you know, if they're on a direct enroll program in the university, they'll go to their advisor and say, you know, how do I do this for a living? And often they say, well, you know, check out S.I.T. But you have to know to ask the right questions and know the right terms. And that's true for every one of our graduate degrees. And so we use Google AdWords to try to help fill that in. We also, if you look at the content on our website, like especially on our TESOL pages, there are a lot of other terms for TESOL. TEFL, EFL, ESL, ESOL. We use all of those terms on our web pages really solely, well, to explain that there are these other terms, but also really just for search engine optimization so that we come up in organic search, even if you search ESL instead of TESOL.
Very strategic. Very strategic.
Yeah. And content is a lot of it. I mean, really having really good, strong content that includes words that people search for is the best thing you can possibly do for SEO. Paid search can be affordable if you have a lot of time and energy to manage it, and you're willing, and you've got somebody, if you're either really technically savvy or you have someone who is on your team. Otherwise, you know, there are paid companies out there who do that, and that is one area that we do outsource. We have a search engine management company for paid search.
What do you mean by paid search?
Paid search, it can mean lots of things. We primarily use it for Google AdWords. So when you search on Google, we can bring up Sure. When you search on Google for something, you know, above and to the right of the organic search, the natural search, there are sponsored ads. Those are Google ads, and it's called AdWords, and those are paid search. I don't know if that's going to click.
The stuff that pops up on your screen and annoys you on your right or left on your screen, those things.
Well, let's open up a website and just so that we make sure that we're clear on the.
I know what it is, I've never heard the term paid search.
Paid search, yeah. No, let's see if that's what it is.
So someone give me a search term.
Study abroad PG.
There you go.
Okay. So you can see all your competition for your program. So these in the yellow box here, and everything on the right, those are paid search. So all of these companies and organizations, people to people, go to CA, Harvard, NYU, they've all paid to have their programs listed here.
I have a question about that. Is there an option, like, since you did study abroad in Fiji and the first three in the center, they don't say anything about Fiji specifically. Can you have a custom response where Fiji is automatically included in that response?
Yeah, so with Google AdWords, you're taking keywords.
Right.
So the keyword search terms that people are typing in, and you're connecting those with ads, with these 25, it's 25, 35, 35 character ads. So you can, I mean, technically you could connect any keywords with it. With any website, and then it does go, it always needs to go to a web page. But Google requires good relevance to show your ad, and if the lower your relevance, the higher your cost often is. But you need some relevance for your ad to show. So for instance, if you have an ad that says, you know, buy red shoes, and someone types in, you know, red shoes, and your website doesn't sell red shoes, you're not going to show up in the Google Ad search. On the other hand, you're also not going to pay for it, because you only pay when someone clicks on your ad.
How effective are those? Because usually I have a really negative connotation with those ones. Like I can get spam or like virus oriented,
Right, yeah.
or
I
like a fake kind of
looking
not.
for what I searched for and it's not actually in there, I can't find it very easily.
It's mixed there, and it's a lot of that is demographic driven. Generally speaking, and this is very broad, the older you are, the less likely you are to recognize these as ads, and the more likely you are to just consider them part of your search. There are also differences geographically, both in the U.S. and out of the U.S., in terms of how Google AdWords versus organic search are perceived. I run ads like this. I know they're ads. And I agree that I look at them and I don't know if I think they're exactly spammy, but I know they're ads. I know someone is trying to sell me something based on my keyword search. But if I'm shopping, for instance, and it's mostly used in commercial ways, I might click on one because they are actually delivering what I'm looking for. And I might not find that in the organic search. But it's true, I will look in the organic search first. And I think ideally we would not do Google AdWords. My goal is to not have to do Google AdWords. We use it to fill in where our organic search isn't good. And so, for instance, in study abroad, we do really well in things like in specific searches, which are also called long-tail searches, especially in areas where we don't have a huge number of other providers. Both of our Bolivia programs come up right here. And I should say also, just because you type it in and it comes up in your search right now, doesn't mean that that's actually your page rank. Google changes all the time, and there are tools out there that will show you what your page ranking is. Generally speaking, though, I mean, it's relatively accurate. If you aren't needing to provide reporting on it, this works well enough for day-to-day. So I wouldn't pay for a Google AdWord for Bolivia study abroad because we come up. But we don't do very well in general search terms, like academic semester abroad, college study abroad. So we use Google AdWords there to help raise our hand to students who are looking for study abroad. And also because it's where our peers and competitors are. And that's a really important thing. If you're involved in marketing a program, knowing what your peers and competitors are doing and deciding, oh, well, maybe I need to be there too, or maybe I'm not going to be there because they're there, that's something that you really do need to consider and make an informed decision about. So, moving on. I want to keep moving because it's getting to be 9:30. You asked about, and I'm going to admit now just how bad I am with names. So I'm sorry, I haven't memorized everyone's name, and I've met you 3 times now. Isla, you mentioned email and spam earlier. We're doing a lot with email and with email automation so that we can provide a better experience for a prospective student around email so that they're not getting these really generic emails at the wrong time. But they're getting information that they need to make an informed decision, and they're getting it at a time when they want to receive it. So we've talked about this. We do print materials because we do a lot of face-to-face recruiting, as I mentioned. And I think, even with a short-term program, a flyer or something like that, if you're working in the college study abroad market, can be a really important piece. Talked a lot about social media. We also use social media for blogging, which is a way to provide updated news-related content to your users, to your viewers. And it's a really great tool because it gets searched on Google a lot, and it's a way of making sure that your website is active and up to date. We use a lot of directories and advertising referring sites. This is something you might consider for your program, especially if it's a short-term program and you don't have a huge amount of lead time to build awareness about it. There are both free and paid directories. They're very big in the college study abroad market that you can consider using. There are also review sites that will review programs. And this can be a really great research tool for you to use as students as well, to really see what's out there. Okay, so we do a lot of custom programs now in S.I.T. Study Abroad, where we work with other colleges and universities to provide them programs that they aren't able to create and operate on their own. One that we're working on now is Stanford Big Overseas Seminar Program in Madagascar. It's going to be next summer. About 15 Stanford students, and led by a faculty member from Stanford. We developed the program itself, so the academic content of the program, in conjunction with Stanford. And I thought for the next part of the class, I would like to talk a little bit about this program and take a look at it from a marketing, program development, timeline perspective. I think one of the biggest challenges beyond choosing what channels to use is making sure that you have a timeline that makes sense for rolling out a program. Because if you don't take enough time or address things at the right time, you're not going to get your audience at the right time. For instance, most recruiting for study abroad for undergraduates occurs in the fall. So when we're rolling out a new semester or summer program, even if that program isn't going to start until the following summer or fall, it's really important that all of our information is out there and live and ready for that fall recruiting season, because that's when somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70% of undergraduates make their choices about not short-term study abroad necessarily, but longer-term semester and summer study abroad.
And to build on that, if you back that up even further and contextualize the marketing within the overall program development, it means that you're conceptualizing the original program probably 2 years in advance of the actual delivery. So for now, Fiji, you're thinking about it now, marketing would start a year from now, the program would start in 2014. So one of the deliverables for your program is a timeline. Think about this as you build that timeline, and you can use as a starting point for your timeline approval of proposal December 2012, then build from there to figure out what your benchmarks are going to be.
And that's hard. Yeah. So and this is really that's perfect. Thank you, Shawna. It's good to know that we're on the same page here. And it's a really important part. It's a really important way that academics connects with marketing and recruiting and admissions. Because we're dependent, if you're delivering an academic program, you're dependent on the people who are creating that academic program. And they may not know anything about the recruiting cycle. They may have an idea for a fantastic program, but they want to do it 3 months from now. And it's the responsibility of the marketing and recruiting side to say, there are these steps we have to take. So what I'd like to do, since this is S.I.T. and I don't want to just stand up here and talk all morning, I'd like to go ahead and build a timeline for rolling out the Stanford program and decide together what marketing channels we're going to use. So we will be the Stanford Study Abroad office this morning, then, pretending that we're that office. We've had a custom program built for us. We're going to figure out exactly what the timeline is for rolling it out, with the goal of the program departing in the summer of 2013. And what methods we're going to use to get information out to Stanford students, which is going to be challenging for me as a Cal Berkeley fan. I tend to be Stanford, but I'll do my best. So do we want to use the board, or do we want to use a roll of paper? What is our usual?
Either. Whatever's best for you.
Use the board. So just briefly, Sora really talked about all of this, but you have a concept, you have an idea for a program. You do the research and development to make sure that, this Stanford program is going to work. There's a group of Stanford students that you've already identified who could potentially do this Madagascar program. Their academic advisors will agree for them to do it. They'll transfer the credit back in. There is a market. There is an interest. And then you do the marketing, recruiting, development. So that's what we're going to do now. We're really going to focus on this piece, which includes the timeline. And then you're going to take the content that you've created and actually do the marketing, recruiting, implementation.
I had a question. How did the Stanford program come about? Did they reach out to S.I.T. or did someone here propose it to them?
They requested a proposal. So we have a custom program department. Lauren Clark is one of our academic deans in S.I.T. Study Abroad. She's responsible for our comparative programs, the International Honors comparative programs, and for our custom programs. And so we have a custom brochure, we have custom information on our website. Our university relations team that connects with all of the colleges and universities that we work with works with the various study abroad offices to talk about custom programs in addition to our other programs. And generally speaking, they come to us and ask for a proposal. Sometimes they'll have an idea of a theme, like global health, or they'll have a place. We know that you've been working in Madagascar for a long time and you have, the infrastructure to deliver programs in Madagascar, for instance, and so they ask us to do it. We've also been asked from time to time to fill in. We had a group of students who couldn't go to Egypt from, did you remember? Brandeis?
I don't remember. That sounds familiar.
We had a group of students who couldn't go to Egypt, and we had capacity in Jordan to deliver a short-term intensive Arabic language program. So we do things like that. They do have to connect to S.I.T's mission and values. We're not going to run a short-term mathematics program where the math professor at the school that we're working with developed the curriculum. We're not a tour operator. We develop curriculum, we deliver that program in conjunction with the school that we're working with.
That's interesting because Stanford doesn't really go along with S.I.T's vision.
Well,
per se.
Yeah, and I think, you bring up an interesting point in the study abroad world of, we work with a number of colleges and universities whose overall mission and values may or may not be a perfect fit for S.I.T's mission and values. But we're delivering programs to their students that do. And that's, I think, the important differentiator there. We're not going to deliver a program that doesn't fit our mission and values. So perhaps we're helping to shift it a little. So I'm going to need volunteers here, partly because my handwriting is illegible. Could I have someone who's willing to write on the board?
Oh, you're writing probably better.
Jania, go for it. And volunteer you.
We have, thank you. So this is a summer program in Madagascar. And again, when the program's going to depart next summer, right? So 2013. Okay, so at the very end point, what's the last, thinking from not the program delivery portion, but the marketing, recruiting, admissions, what's the absolute last thing that's going to happen?
Recruitment plan implementation.
And then yes, so that's the point here. So do you want to? Okay, let's do that. So the recruiting, planning, and implementation. But then we have a hard deadline here at the end of summer 2013. So I don't have an exact date for the departure of this program. I believe it's July. Let's call it July 12th. And this is an important thing if you're working whether you're working in tourism or program development or marketing. If you have a service, a product, a program that has a start date and an end date, then you have a hard deadline. I used to work in tourism, and at some point, literally, that ship was going to sail. And if you hadn't decided you were going to be on that boat, it's too late. And this is very different from a lot of other industries where there is always tomorrow. We don't have tomorrow. We have July 12th, 2013. So everything that we do has to go back from there. And some of those things that we have to look at don't necessarily seem like marketing, but they connect to it because they connect to the student's ability to do the program. And I would say if you work in international education, a student's ability to participate, an exchange participant's ability to participate on a program is crucial to your being successful, and it's integral with the marketing efforts. So at some point, there's going to be a last date for a student, and one of the things that comes up a lot in international education is visas. And so at some point, because you're going to Madagascar, you're going to need a visa if you're a U.S. student. So that is even before this cutoff date, your last cutoff date is a visa. So we have the visa here. And let's say you have to have your visa by June 1st. So that means that all of that program planning and development and decision making, all of the marketing that we're going to do has to happen so that a student can get her visa by June 1st. So we're going to work all the way backward through this. Before June 1st, what would you say that the next step back would be?
Program, just before this date?
Just before that date, from a student's perspective, because when we think about marketing and international education for a student program, we're really thinking about the student's life cycle. From them working backwards, from them departing on the program, to the very beginning would be their awareness of the program.
What is the deadline for applying?
So we're going to say, right, so then we need a deadline for applying. Right. So I would say, and this is something that you would work with your admissions office on. If you're also the admissions office, you're going to have to make a decision about this. Let's make it May 1st.
Okay, so
Would that be like the acceptance confirmation?
Yeah, like acceptance confirmation here. So that would be acceptance confirmation would be May 1st.
What would we say, health forms?
so let's see.
Yeah, so that would be acceptance, confirmation, health forms and things, which we call confirmation materials, generally is an industry term.
Health information.
Health information. Okay. So this means that all of the marketing of this program has to have finished before May 1st. So let's go then, we know what our deadlines are. Let's go back to the very beginning. So we've got Stanford students who live on campus at Stanford. So that's our audience, our Stanford students.
Start here, you're saying? Starting point. What should I write?
Well, we don't know yet, and this is the thing that I'm trying to get at. I don't know that I'm doing it very elegantly, but that you can't say I'm going to start on a date to market a program. You have to start at the end and figure out how much time you need. It's about rolling that calendar back piece by piece by piece, and then saying, oh, I need X number of months, or X number of weeks, or X number of days. And you need to know what each piece along the way is. Because if you don't do this, then you're not going to give the students adequate time to find out about the program. So the start, we have Stanford students. When do they come to campus? In September. So I would say September might be a good date to consider, but this needs to stay flexible because we may determine that there's not enough time and it needs to get pushed back further. And I think that's one thing that we make a lot of mistakes about. I mean, I've made them myself over and over again of really saying, well, we can do it. We can roll this out now. And not really looking hard at what the calendar is and making sure that you've given yourself enough time to be successful. So,
October then.
Yeah.
Instead of September.
October?
Yeah.
Okay. So we start in October. So let's just say 10-12. And so then what are the first things that we're going to do in terms of marketing? So we've got all these marketing channels we can use. Research and development.
So like at the study abroad office, like a fair or a presentation on what was it called?
Informational meetings.
Okay, so in the fall, we're going to have a face-to-face.
Right here, right?
Yeah, so in October, we'll do a face-to-face. The research and development actually I think needs to have been done probably even sooner, so that you actually know by October that you do want to go forward with the program.
So that's just the start of
This is how
The
you're
information.
actually.
This is for biology credit, right?
It is for biology credit.
Undergraduate credit?
Undergraduate credit.
General ed?
Let's look.
Because I mean, then your audience, I mean, you need to know who to market to. If it's a upper level course with prerequisites, then you cut out half your potential students.
Right. And that's the type of thing that needs to be done in that research and development phase. And by the time you get to that start date in September or October, you have to know that you do have that market and you've done that work. So yeah, so this is biology. July 1st is the date. I do have that. Yeah, so face-to-face. So we're going to do a study abroad fair.
Study abroad there.
It is not for credit.
Oh, it's not for credit?
It's not for credit. The grading basis is satisfactory, no credit. So because it's a short-term Stanford program, so students are doing it as an enrichment program for their biology. They're not going to get credit back in for it. And that's a big issue in study abroad. You can have the most interesting, compelling study abroad program that lots of students want to do, but if their school doesn't approve it and they can't get credit for it or transfer that credit back in, that's an impediment to them going on your program. That said, I mean, there are students every term who take a leave of absence in order to study abroad somewhere that their college doesn't approve. But of course, it makes it much harder for them to graduate on time. This is part of a Stanford program, so there are students who are in this program. So I would say in the research and development phase, I mean, one of the things we already know is that there are Stanford students who have already said they want to do this and they're part of a program. So one of the things with this kind of custom programs is we have that kind of built-in audience. Where we have identified a group of students who would want to do the program. But that's a really important piece. If you don't have a group of interested students that you can reach who have the ability to do the program, whether the impediment is cost or credit, you need to identify that in the research and development phase before you start marketing it. Because you're not going to be successful in marketing it if you can't reach your audience and they can't go.
Well, it seems like it's a field trip then for the biology class.
Yeah, it's a seminar. So it's attached to, I mean, it isn't for credit, it's attached to a larger seminar series.
So it's a component of a larger program, basically.
It's a component of a larger program, yeah.
And I would say that this actually connects with what we talked about last week when we were brainstorming program models. This is a new program model, something I'm not familiar with. Clearly at Stanford there is a culture of co-curricular programs of this nature, or otherwise Stanford would not have asked for the proposal in the first place. So from an S.I.T. perspective, it seems safe. We wouldn't just go to a school and say, here's a program for you and we're not offering credit and your students won't get credit, because in most places that won't apply, as you were saying. The market, we know, wants credit for academic programs. Stanford clearly has something else going on, which is really interesting.
And the Stanford really loves international stuff.
Which makes sense, though.
So this would be more like a kind of a resume building kind of thing.
And yeah, so more of an internationalization.
Yeah.
Well, that would be one way to market it too, because it's a resume builder.
For Stanford.
For the students.
For the students, exactly. Excellent.
And that brings up with the marketing channels, which I think is the next thing for us to talk about, is sort of the content. What are you going to say about the program? So of course you want to deliver what is being delivered on the program, but you also want to frame it. And so here you may frame it as, the resume building, graduate school application building opportunity for students, and that it is selective. It is for a certain set of students. So there's a study abroad fair. What are we going to have at the study abroad fair?
The written material, the content, the print material.
Print materials, okay.
Well,
So,
you'll have competitors.
sorry,
You'll have competitors.
you'll have competitors,
At
yeah.
the big brother fair.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yes.
So you gotta be prepared.
And study abroad fairs are often, there's lots and lots of tables with lots and lots of information. It can be really overwhelming for students. And so it's important that you have good, clear materials to provide. So yes, so we're going to have we're going to need a brochure, and we're going to need that brochure before that study abroad fair. So we have, so right in there, we'll need a brochure.
Real brochure, that means.
Or just print material in general.
Yeah, okay, and that's
Yeah, or just print material in general.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we want to be able to give people more information about where to go to sign up and apply and everything, so we probably need a website. Yeah, so we need a website. Okay, so we've done our research and development, we've determined we can do this program, we've got print materials, we've got a website developed, all of that has to be done before the fair.
Can I add? Oh, that's before the fair.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that you have those materials at the fair, and you can say, if you want more information, go here, because you want to have, information about your website and your print materials.
How much time is there? Because there's 30 days in here. How long does it take to do this?
Good question. Yeah. So, this may or may not be enough time. You may actually have to start in the summer. And this is where I was talking about needing to be flexible about your start dates. You start to learn about the things that you're going to need. It starts getting pushed back further and further. So actually, maybe our start date is August 1st.
Okay, so now, now we are.
So we can just, so August 1st.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have 2 months to develop a website and the materials. That seems like a more reasonable amount of time. So then we have the study abroad fair. Students come up, they sign up and say, yes, I'd like more information. So how do we follow up with them after the fair?
Email correspondence.
Email correspondence, okay. So when would we want to do that?
Within a week.
A week, okay. So on 10/7, after the fair.
Oh, so before.
After?
It's after?
After 10 on, yeah. I would actually say even less than a week.
Less than a week.
Yeah.
10/2.
Within
10
a day or two.
10/2. Thank you for coming to the fair. Here's more information.
10/2?
So that's going to be an email.
October 2nd, so
October
a day
2nd.
a day or two after the fair.
Just to follow up.
Oh, that, okay, sorry, okay.
So that would be an email to follow
That's
up.
how we do it. Within the next 2 days.
Yeah.
That would be the day.
So that means you need to have that email already ready, again,
Right.
before the fair. So
Okay.
in the print materials, the website development, we also need email content.
The email stalker.
Hi guys,
Remember me?
So it's October now. We've printed all this material. We've got a website. We've gone to the study abroad fair. We've done email follow up. We've got 6 students who have actually applied, but we need 15. So
What about having the faculty showing the video in the class?
okay, so faculty information session. Okay.
But how can they show a video on something that isn't in existence? Or like just having faculty talk about the program?
No, I want like us, S.I.T. to create a video to send to the faculty member to present to the students to get them captivated about going.
And what would the video entail?
Yeah.
It would show, well, I would be bought on, like, you know, seeing pretty pictures of Madagascar or showing indigenous population or just like kind of maybe some events or activities that people are doing up there.
So maybe a faculty member who's already in the field who might be able to talk a little bit about the program.
It could have pictures of students on study abroad, even if it's not necessarily at that place, just saying, like, here are students that we sent before to a study abroad.
Okay.
So once you saw that video,
So-
destination video?
Yeah. Okay.
Destination? Sure.
Yeah, so destination video. So when are we going to produce that video? Way before.
Okay.
Oh, it's not even in here?
Yeah, no, it's not there.
But it needs to be produced.
But it needs to be produced. And now we've got yet another thing here. And so you're starting to see there's a lot of work that has to be done before you can even really start. So now we've got a video that needs to be produced.
I think another way to market it is in-class presentations within, like, say, the biology department, have
That's what I meant.
or have student representatives go in and be like, you know, this is, we participated on a study abroad program before, this is what we've gained from it, like a first-hand, like, I've done it, and this is how it altered my life, or
And those kinds of
benefited me, and yada, yada, yada.
And a lot of schools do information sessions like that, absolutely. Like I know GW, George Washington University, you know, they have reentry fairs where students often come and present their research and talk about their experiences with their classmates. A challenge there, particularly for a new program, is that you don't have alumni.
Right.
So it does make it a little bit more general. And I mean, I know that today wasn't going to work. I made it work, and I said, sorry, can I come another day? And you know, the schedule is set, and maybe that biology teacher doesn't have time in his schedule. So that is a challenge. I think that with a program like this being run by Stanford's biology department, they're going to let you in. But that's going to be something to consider as a challenge in the market if you're doing, you know, outbound study abroad or promoting your graduate programs. Having access shouldn't be taken for granted, and that kind of, you often need faculty-to-faculty connections.
So I would say dealing with difficult faculty who insist, no, today is the day about marketing, and this is the day you need to be there, and I know your life better than you do. So, but I say it laughingly. But administration dealing with faculty is, when I have my administrator hat on, it is one of the greatest challenges, and a smart faculty person will recognize that we have the reputation for being difficult for different reasons, and some of them are valid. Most of them are valid, and maybe one or two are not,
And some less difficult than others, definitely.
But it is the faculty-led program, so
Right.
there would be.
So there would be, yeah.
Right.
So I would say maybe that happens on November 1st. So maybe we give it a month. The students, you know, we've got 6 students, so maybe on November 1st we do some faculty-led
Informational students, or have a representative from the study abroad office.
So I'm confused, who is doing all of this work again? Is it the study abroad office at Stanford, or us, the custom builders of the program, or in the faculty? Because
It's
Shawna is doing it.
Shawna is not doing it, but Shawna could be asked to do it, or my department could be asked to do it. That's a really important question, and that's something that at the research and development phase and at the contract or memorandum of understanding, when you are a provider and you're working with a school, you have to work out who's going to be responsible for which pieces, not only of the program delivery, but the recruiting of the program, the creation of content about the program. Often, when it comes to programs like this, what happens is that we, the custom provider, develop the content, the words, the photos, in this case, probably even the video. So I would say the video would be the custom provider, the content that goes in the print materials and the website development, but the actual website development, print materials, and emails would be produced by Stanford. and by the Study Abroad Office or the office at Stanford that's responsible for delivering the program.
And just to extend this a bit more, if, for example, one of the DD&E groups is creating a program for review by the U.S. government, a citizen exchange program, they need to ask their funders in that case, what are the terms of the partnership going to be? So sometimes it's between provider and client, sometimes it's between provider and funder if the funder is an outside funding source. And sometimes the government wants to be promoting its own programs and handles all of that through its network of embassies around the world. And sometimes they ask the program provider to do all of that marketing, depending on where it takes place. So it's something that you want to be thinking about, and it varies depending on the kind of program that you're working with.
So we've had the faculty information session. We followed up with an email. We followed up with we have a destination video that I would assume will be on our website as well. Maybe we wait to post it on the web until after the information session. It's January 1st, and we still have, say, 8 students. What do we do now? So it's Jan 1. Fit in another. Oh yeah, you can just erase that.
Yeah. I can move this.
Sure. We'll remember.
Yeah, we'll remember. Yes.
Student information session.
Okay, so January 1st.
So 1.
So 1/1.
But wait, you should do it before the holidays because that's
Before the
when
holidays.
Oh, before the holidays?
I think you should do it before the holidays because that's when students are going to go home and get the money from their parents.
Right, and that brings up a really important point. Knowing the other things in the world that affect a student's ability to participate, that would affect, for instance, if you're doing international exchange, say you're bringing in professionals from overseas to work and train with peers here in the U.S., if you're bringing teachers in and the teaching schedule for secondary teachers in Namibia is different from the United States, you're going to have an issue of timing. And that's a really important thing to consider at each point here. And so for students, if they're going home to get funding for this, then making sure that they have that information in their hands before they go home for Christmas is important. I also think just generally with the holidays that happen between the end of November and January, if you aren't providing a service or a product related to those holidays, it's not a great time. Because people are focused on those holidays. So I would say that, so then again, December 1st, we send, and then what are we going to do December 1st? Say we've already done an information session, and we didn't get that many students who came. We've sent out an email, we've done the faculty info. What else might we do?
You could maybe send some of the brochures to the student mailboxes.
Okay, so we're going to mail the brochures to student
Something to
mailboxes.
take home.
Email again, reach out through email.
And it's important that those touch points. It doesn't necessarily need to be a one-off thing. One email may not be sufficient. So brochures in the mailboxes. December 1st, everyone leaves campus December 15th. We come back and hopefully by March 1st we have enough students. So see, by starting.
What happened to our Facebook page?
Well, we never had one.
That's like 3.
Oh.
Okay, so but see, you've got by December 1st, and of course, this is just a simulation, but say you come back in January and you've got 17 students. You've got 2 students on the wait list. So you've got 17 students now. They don't have their visas yet. So maybe you do Facebook as a retention tool. So maybe you do Facebook now for those students and get them to get together and talk, and it can actually also be academic for them because you can start providing information on that Facebook page.
So around the same time?
I remember when I studied abroad, I saw that there was a Facebook page for my program, and some other students were like, oh, I'm going to be going, or I'm not going to go, and then other people were like, yeah, I'm getting accepted now. So after they saw that group, other people wanted to join in. make their final decision.
And I think that Facebook in study abroad, particularly very focused program pages, can be, work exactly that way. I think it's a great example. So yeah, so we have a Facebook group page now that's all set up, and so those 17 students, they're on that Facebook page. This is a pretty ideal scenario where everything has worked well, but you're using these same methods and tools throughout, even if it were April and we still needed students. We could go back in the spring semester and do exactly all of these things all over again if we needed to. And the important thing is just to pull the calendar back as far as it needs to go in order to be successful. And it is, there are no guarantees, certainly, and there are always outside forces that affect your ability to get students to participate on the program. So, I think we're good. Thank you so much. So before I go, I wanted to just follow up any questions, anything I didn't cover that you were hoping I would talk about, or comments that you have.
Can you tell us about the staffing of the marketing department here at S.I.T.?
Absolutely. I'm the director of the department. We have an assistant director, Joan Peralt. She is a graduate of the International Education Program. She has also worked in both incoming exchange and outbound exchange, so she has a lot of international education experience. We have 2 writer-editors. I can't emphasize enough how important making sure that you have writers and photo editors and people who can do that kind of content creation work for you is. All of these things, every single piece here required writing and editing. And so we have 2 full-time staff, and that's what they do. They write and edit and proofread everything from one-sheets to Facebook pages to blog posts. And then I have a marketing coordinator who does a lot of the website updates, because the website has to be updated pretty much every day. The website is a living thing. It's a very former English professor who would probably not like that term used for a website. It's an inanimate object, but it's one that changes all the time, and you have to keep it up to date. There are, you can look on the web, there are millions of websites out there that have not been kept up. And it takes time and energy to do so. So we have someone in my office really dedicated to that. And then dedicated to a lot of just the business needs that we have. We have budgets, and we have to pay bills, and we have to buy pens and bags and things like that. We have to make sure that we're managing our print materials inventory. And then we have Ian Hesley, who's a graduate student now in the SLM program, who is doing his practicum with us, and he's doing a lot with social media. He built our Pinterest site, which is really exciting. He's doing a great job.
Who was that?
Ian.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
He works in your department.
Yeah.
And he also works for the State Department.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So those little S.I.T. bags, you get them from you?
I think you do. And the swag, that brings up an interesting thing that I think we struggle with, and I have really mixed feelings about. I think in an ideal world, I would want them to be everywhere, but we also have limited resources, and we want to be really careful about how we're spending our marketing funds. We don't want to waste money. We don't want to spend money unnecessarily. And so you have to make really tough decisions often about things like bottles and bags and how they're best used. We have flash drives too. They're $7 a piece. And that really does add up. And I assume no matter what you go on to do next, you're going to have limited resources. And so it's really important that you understand what your outcomes are going to be from anything, and why you're using a particular resource. So we use those bags very strategically. We use them at conferences and other events. We give them to alumni. We have talked in the budget about making sure that we give them to all students. hasn't been in the budget. I should have brought bags today.
How much do they cost?
If you, the bags that we've used over the years, we've paid anywhere from like $2.50 to $7 for, depending on the type of bag. There are a lot of promotional materials companies out there, and if you look hard enough, you can often find things on clearance, and we've gotten some really great deals by finding things on clearance. If you take the time to wander up to Bliss House at some point, I'm on the top floor. The marketing department's on the top floor of Bliss House. If you want to come by and say hi, I can certainly give you Absolutely. No problem.
Yeah,
Yes, and I should have brought some with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too. It was wonderful.